Hey everybody! Welcome if you're new, I'm Hannah, and I love sharing my sketchbook spreads, testing art supplies, and finding different ways to stay creative. I'm really glad you're here. Today, if you haven't noticed already, I'm working on the 100 Heads challenge still. It's been a couple months now, and I'm clearly failing at staying within the time frame. It's supposed to be a 10-day challenge, and it's been a couple months. So I'm trying to actually finish this challenge. I think I just finished I finished head 75, and I figured it would be a lot of fun to just finish this spread together as this week's video. So come along, and maybe you can do the 100 Heads challenge if you haven't already. I know it's a couple years old, you might have already done it already. But if you haven't, I suggest starting. It's so much fun, and I have seen a lot of progress just within my own art from the first head to this head. So I definitely recommend doing this challenge if you've been thinking about it. Just start. Who cares if it's not in the 10-day time frame? Just start. I promise you won't regret it. So I'm 75 heads into this challenge. I have 25 left to go. And what that means is the first 75 heads that I have drawn are the ones that I found the most exciting and captivating to my heart. The last 25 are ones that I have been neglecting a little bit. So finding a way to stay motivated or finding a way to draw them in a way that excites me is a challenge in and of itself. And I find that that's actually a really useful skill to build on, is finding ways to make something exciting even though it doesn't excite you. So the way that I am making this exciting for me on the rest of this spread is through color and variation of head sizes. I've been really excited about rainbows lately, and if you watched my last week's video, you would probably say, yeah, that tracks, because of my rainbow bison that I did last week. Still, it holds a very special place in my heart. Anyway, so to continue on my rainbow obsession right now, I'm carrying that through to each head. So far, I've done my rainbow in columns. So blue, purple, you can see what it looks like. I didn't want to choose a very bright orange for this next one because I felt like all of the colors so far have been really calm, and I kind of want to stay in that calm zone. So I picked a very warm orange. You could argue that this is brown, but it's orange, maybe. Some of my favorite heads to draw in this 100 Heads challenge have been the guys with the really intense beards and mustaches. So the fact that this guy has a really big mustache, that was the saving grace for this particular head jug man. He's not a real human in the picture. He's a jug made of clay, which is a lot of fun to draw because it kind of gives you some liberties as far as not having to get his exact likeness. You can kind of switch it up and make it your own jug, which is really fun. Once I get the drawing pretty much how I like it, then I like to go around and just deepen up some of the areas that need more depth or contrast. So usually the eyes, the shadow around the eyes, the nostrils is a big one that I usually need to make darker. And every once in a while, I'll go around and deepen up the outline of the whole drawing just to, solidify the whole thing. And then my favorite part of this whole thing has been adding the number after each drawing. After I sharpen my pencils, I always get that weird residue that kind of sticks to the tip, so I like to rub that off with my finger. And then on to the next portrait. So the portrait that I'm drawing here is a girl who has very soft features and really big hair, and she's very orange, and the lighting is really intense. It's almost like sunset lighting, so the shadows are very long. And the way that I've been drawing this spread so far has been I've been trying to stay away from shading and shadows, and I've been trying to keep it just the outlines of the features. And with this one, I had to draw the shadows. Otherwise, it would just be a very blank face. So in the end, this girl does end up looking a little bit different from the rest of the people on this spread, just because I drew her different. I added an element to her that I did not add to the others. One thing that I am working on with this spread is to get all of the heads to mingle with each other, so kind of overlapping in different sizes. I'm kind of failing at the different sizes at this point. Right now, these four are all pretty much the same size. So when you are overlapping a head with another head, you have to learn how to start from different starting points in the face. This girl, I had to start with her eyes because her head is pretty much covered by the other three heads around her. So learning how to position all the features appropriately without the head as a reference was a little bit tricky. So I started adding some of the shading, the long shadows to her face, and then I decide I'm gonna add her hair in, and I can't decide where to add her hair in, and then I start, and then I'm like, no, I can't do her hair until I add in her neck. And then instead of adding her neck right away, I get distracted by her face and adding more shadows. So I am so ADHD brained about this head right now. It's taken me for a wild ride, that's for sure. So now that I finally have her neck in place, after doing all of the other things that in my head needed to be done first, I can add in her really big hair, and her hair in the picture is a very cool texture. It's very textured hair, and it's really big and crinkly looking, so I'm trying to grasp the crinkliness of it in a very simplistic way that still shows that it's crinkly without putting in the effort of adding each little detail of it. So as I'm looking through the rest of the heads and I'm trying to figure out which one to draw next, I'm drawn to this one girl who looks very Tim Burton-esque, and I'm so enamored with her. She's young but also old looking at the same time, and a little bit eerie, a little bit creepy. And I think she's actually a doll, so like a picture of a doll. So that in and of itself gives her a creepy vibe. Does anybody else get a little creeped out by dolls, or is that just me? Anyway, to get back to the spread, I have this whole spot left on the right of the spread, and initially I was thinking about wanting to do like 3 or 4 heads in this spot just to clump them all together. But this girl, there's something special about her, so I decided to give her the full side of this page, and it really ties it all together. She turns out amazing. I don't know if you notice, but her eyes are really far apart. I mess up the placement of her eyes here. And I really like how this right eye turned out. So I'm apprehensive to erase that. So I decide to erase everything else and start over so I can keep that one eye. And I'm actually really happy that I did that in the end because the lips turn out amazing. Way better than they did before. I'm probably my best mouth ever. Now, if you haven't noticed, the colored pencil doesn't erase fully, and it definitely leaves a mark. You may be wondering how I plan on covering that up or getting rid of it. And I am actually going to be doing a background for this. I have been really intimidated by backgrounds in the past, and I'm trying to grow that skill. And this is the first spread that I'm going to be testing it out fully on, and I'm really excited. One of the things that drew me to this girl was the juxtaposition between her youth and the vibe that she's just really like an old soul. And I think one of the reasons why she seems like she has an old soul is because her clothes are all very old and matronly. And it's really fun to piece those together and make it make sense. And she's also holding this stick with the thing at the end, and I'm sure you could probably figure it out. Anybody with 2 eyes looking at this portrait could figure it out. But my eyes are really bad, and I wasn't thinking, and I was just following the lines. It's a horse. It's a riding horse, a stick horse. Duh! Of course it's a stick horse. But I thought it was really funny that I didn't know what it was until at the very, very end. Literally the very last line. Oh yeah, it's a stick horse. And we're just gonna gloss over the fact that this is the most rudimentary hand and move on to something else. Her dress is beautifully pleated, and it has really beautiful floral designs on this dress, but I leave that off just to keep it simple. And this was the last line. I was like, oh yeah, it's a horse. But part of my reasoning for wanting to leave the design off of her clothes is to have it be more about the face and about the portraiture rather than decorating her outfit. I decided to add in a little bit of blush on both of her cheeks, and that ties it together. And she's done. She turns out beautiful, just like she does in the portrait. And 78 is done. I'm pulling out my Ohuhu paint markers for the background. I have an idea for how I want to do this background. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I know I want to play into that rainbow theme a little bit. So I'm going to pick the same color of the column. So I'm going to start out with a blue, and I want to go one shade darker than what is already on the page. I debated whether or not I should go one shade lighter or one shade darker, and I went with darker just to make it bold and face my fear and my anxiety and just go for it. You'll have to let me know if you like the darker or if I should have gone lighter in the comments. I know how I feel, but I'm interested to see how you feel. I have two sets of markers, of paint markers. I have the Ohuhu and I have the Arrtx. And I decided to pull out the Ohuhu just because they are a little bit finer of a tip than the Arrtx ones. So I knew that I could get a little bit better control with these markers over the Arrtx ones. So going around each head was a lot easier with the Ohuhu ones. Filling in some of these holes down here is oddly satisfying to me. But now it's time to move on to the red. And I pull out my sheet here for the Ohuhu ones, and they don't offer, in this set that I got, they don't really offer a good red. Most of these are orange. So I pull out my Arrtx ones and go for pretty much the only red that's in there. And then I go to town with the red. And immediately as I push down, they are so much juicier than the Ohuhu ones. Like, they're staying wet so much longer than the purple and the blue ones did. So I will have to pay attention to where I put my left hand, just so that it doesn't smudge. So let's pull out the Ohuhu ones again. And I think this might be the best one. I'm gonna look at my Arrtx sheet too and just kind of compare if they might have a better color that would fit this. And I decided to go with the Ohuhu ones because I really like this copper color. Here it is. And after going back and forth between the Arrtx and the Ohuhu, I prefer the Ohuhu for the finer details that I can get with it because they're less juicy. So I know that it can handle the finer lines that I need it to fill. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how I'm ending this edge for the brown. I need to find an orange now. Let's look at the Ohuhu sheet. I'm not really happy with the oranges that are here. They're all too corally. So now I need to figure out if I want this lighter color or the darker color orange, and I decide to go with the darker one. So do you remember how I was saying that I could cover up the mistake here? I was not paying attention at all when I was doing this. I was just in zone out mode until I realized that this was the whole purpose for doing the background in the first place, so that I could cover up this particular line. So just a couple more finishing details, and then the background is done and the spread is done. And this is how the spread looks. I am so pleased with how the background turned out. It doesn't look terrible. So that just goes to show that the background doesn't have to be anything crazy for it to make a difference, for it to impact your art in a fun way that speaks to you. This girl is my absolute favorite. I love her so much. So thank you so much for spending time with me while we get creative together up to head 78. So I will see you next time.